My name is Maya Carter. I am 34 years old and I live in Denver, Colorado, where I work as a graphic designer. One morning I woke up and saw 28 missed calls from an unknown number in Illinois, and I felt my whole body go cold because I already knew something from my past was trying to come back into my life again. I just sat there holding my phone while my coffee went cold because some memories never leave a person, they only stay quiet until one day they return to test your strength again. My story starts when I was 12 years old in a small town called Willow Creek in Illinois, where my family looked normal from outside, but inside our home there was no real love or peace. My parents owned a few small stores and people respected them, but at home my mother was very strict and emotionally harsh while my father always followed her without question. In our house everything was called discipline or life lessons, but in reality it was fear and control. If I cried I was told I was weak, if I made a mistake I was humiliated, if I asked for help I was ignored. Islam teaches us that children are amana, trust, from Allah, and they must be treated with mercy and kindness, but in my home I never felt that mercy. When I was 8 years old I asked for new shoes because mine were broken, and my mother left me alone in a shopping mall for hours saying I must learn patience and responsibility. When I was 10 they left me in a parking lot at night after a school event because I cried after being bullied, and they said crying makes a person weak, but Islam clearly teaches that kindness is strength and oppression is no matter who does it. I slowly learned to stay silent in my own house, to hide my feelings, and to survive by becoming invisible. The only thing that saved me was drawing, because when I drew I felt like I could breathe again, like I had a small escape from pain. But even that was not enough for them. One day I got a B+ in art, which was my favorite subject, and instead of encouragement my mother called it failure and said I needed a lesson I would never forget. The next day they told me we were going to Chicago as a family trip, and I believed them because a child always hopes their parents will change. We reached Union Station, a huge crowded place full of strangers and noise, and my mother told me to wait near a pillar while they parked the car and got food and said they would return in 15 minutes. But 15 minutes turned into 1 hour, then 2, and they never came back. Fear started growing inside me because I had no phone, no safe plan, and no idea how to go home. Then I saw their car outside and my heart filled with hope for a moment, but that hope broke instantly when I saw my father driving slowly past the station and my mother laughing while shouting that she bet I could not even find my way home. In Islam, even joking with harm or fear is not allowed because causing pain to a child is, and what I experienced was not a joke but emotional harm that changed my entire life. That moment broke something inside me because I understood it was planned, not an accident. I stood there frozen and then started walking inside the station crying, but I was too scared to ask anyone for help because I had been taught not to trust people. Hours passed until a kind woman named Maria, a station worker, noticed me and gently asked if I was lost. I broke down and told her everything, and she treated me with kindness and care, which felt like something I had never experienced before. She called security and police and they confirmed I had been left there for hours. They called it child neglect, but I understood it as something deeper, a complete loss of mercy inside a home that was supposed to protect me. That night I did not return home. I was placed with a foster family named Daniel and Sarah Moore. Their home was peaceful, safe, and full of respect. Nobody shouted at me, nobody punished me for crying, nobody made me feel like I was a burden. For the first time I understood what Islam teaches about kindness, that mercy creates healing and destroys souls. But healing did not happen quickly because my mind was still trained to expect pain. Even kindness made me nervous at first. Slowly I learned that not all adults hurt children, and some people actually live with mercy and patience as Islam teaches. The Moors later adopted me and I changed my name to Maya Carter so I could leave my painful past behind. Years passed and I studied graphic design, moved to Denver, and built a new life step by step. I met a kind man named Ethan who respected my past and never judged me, and slowly I learned that healing is possible when you are surrounded by good people. I blocked everything from my old life and tried to live in peace until one morning when 28 missed calls came and everything came back again. The voicemail was from my younger sister Lily, who told me our mother was sick, our father had a stroke, And the family business was gone because the truth about what they did to me had been exposed in the town and people no longer respected them. Their perfect image had collapsed completely. Lily said they wanted to see me again, not because they had changed, but because they had no one left. I did not answer immediately because I needed time to think. My foster parents and Ethan told me I was not responsible for their pain and I should only go if it gave me peace, not guilt. Islam also teaches that forgiveness is noble, but it is not required when there is no real change or regret, and justice and self-protection are also important. So I decided to go only for closure, not reconciliation. When I saw them in the hospital, they looked weak and broken. My mother cried and my father stayed silent. They called me by my old name, but I corrected them and said my name is Maya. They tried to explain everything as mistakes, but I stopped them because what they did was not a mistake, it was repeated choice and cruelty. I told them everything clearly, how they left me at Union Station, how they laughed while I was scared, and how they turned my childhood into fear instead of mercy. My mother asked for forgiveness, but I told her I was not there to forgive them, I was there to end the connection and close that chapter forever. I told them I built a life without them and they are not part of my future anymore. Then I stood up and walked away without anger or revenge, only truth and peace. Outside the hospital I felt lighter because I finally understood a deep lesson that Islam also teaches in many ways. Every human being will face accountability for their actions, and no one can escape the consequences of. Real family is not blood, it is mercy, protection, and respect. Real love never humiliates or harms. And real healing begins when a person stops calling cruelty a lesson and starts calling it what it truly is, wrong and unacceptable, and chooses a life of peace, dignity, and Allah's guidance over pain. Moral lesson. This story teaches that true parenting and true relationships are based on mercy, not control or fear. Islam clearly emphasizes that children are amana, trust, from Allah, and they must be treated with kindness, dignity, and emotional safety. Any form of oppression, humiliation, or emotional harm is injustice, and no excuse can make it right. It also shows that painful childhood experiences can shape a person deeply, but they do not have to define the future. Healing is possible when a person finds a safe, respectful environment and chooses to rebuild their life with patience and faith. Another important lesson is that forgiveness is a personal choice, not an obligation when there is no real change or accountability. Islam encourages forgiveness, but it also supports justice, boundaries, and self-protection from harm. Finally, the story reminds us that real love is not control, fear, or punishment. Real love is mercy, respect, and protection. And in the end, every action has consequences, because accountability before Allah is real and no one escapes it. In short, choose mercy over cruelty, healing over hatred, and truth over silence, because dignity and peace are also part of faith.